psychologist focusing on your orgasms for 2024. And I would tend to agree with her. 50's kind of making the point, and we'll get further into this at 9 a.m., that, he's just too busy, and he's got to take it off his schedule. He's getting a little too distracted. Okay, I don't know what being 50 Cent is like. I'm willing to bet women just throw it at you all day, every day. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I have found in my life, not that I am 50 Cent, but I have found in my life that, yes, if you take some distractions off the table, Adrian can't, I'm in training, right? Gotta do this right. Okay, fair enough. But the longer I have gone without sex, I normally find myself making bad decisions. I maybe get a little cranky. Some of you maybe have heard that throughout the years of all being on the program. I may get a little cranky. I may be too focused on the fact that I'm not having enough sex, so I can't think clearly about, something else. I have found that occasionally, maybe not every time, but occasionally sex can press the refresh button. You can clear the mechanism. And through that, you can start to make better decisions. Definitely better decisions on who you might want to sleep with, right? If you go home and you're like, let's just go to a little Pornhub, we'll take 10 minutes to myself here, and you're like, you ever do that? Think to yourself, I'm going to text somebody. And you're like, hey, you know what? Let's just look at these X videos right here and see what happens. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, thank God I didn't text that person. Have you ever been there? Yeah, of course, right? There's exercising the demons out. 50 saying, nah, I ain't doing it no more. He's looking for a big 2024. I don't know how much bigger he wants his life to get. I mean, dude, he has all the money. He has all the accolades. Very few people impacted the musical world the way 50 did when he came out. I mean, he was a rocket ship when he came out. So we'll try to figure out what the hell 50's after. We'll do that coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. So like I said, we'll rock the bank with him as well. At 8 a.m., we're going to have to take a look at the state of California, as they are now proposing a bill that would ban tackle football for children. Now, not children of all ages, and that's where people are going to lose their minds. But they are looking at banning tackle football in children. This is, of course, over brain issues, CTE issues. There have been plenty of studies that have come out and said the longer that you play tackle football, the more likely it is you may suffer a CTE issue. We don't really hear about CTE as much as we used to. I'm willing to bet that's because of the NFL's power and influence and money. And I'm willing to bet that's part of that. And I also have a list. This goes back a few years, and I'm going to underline that when we have the conversation today. But I do have a list of 9 former football players who in an article were all referenced as, I don't want my kids playing football. I played it for a living. I don't want my kids doing it. Because you're going to hear a lot about how today's generation is soft. And I think it's interesting when former pro players are like, yeah, it was good for me. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I have the money, but I don't want it for my children. And I think there's a lot of things that parents have done, maybe had to go through, something a little dangerous, maybe, the military, maybe being a cop, whatever it is. I don't want it for you. It was all right for me. I had to kind of do it. I'm trying to build a better life for you. I don't want this for you. And I think that's very common in a lot of areas of life. So we're going to take a look at tackle football and what California's looking to do and when they'll do it. And we'll try to get to that at the 8 o'clock hour. 7 a.m. this morning, we're going to take a look at whether or not marijuana can be used for motivation in your life. You don't normally hear about it with that. You normally hear about the fact that it kind of puts you in a place of screw it, and you find yourself on the couch just kind of being okay with whatever's going on. That's the tendency it tends to have with me. But we'll see there coming up at 7 o'clock. They say marijuana can absolutely motivate you in one aspect of your life, one area of your life, and I found this to be a little interesting, so we'll get to that at 7.
Here's what's next on the Stansbury Show.
Oh my God, dude. Pat McAfee already. Enough with this guy! Did we get to the end of this yesterday? Everybody thinks so. I'm not so sure. Next on the Stansbury Show.
He's a bad influence. But nobody is stupid enough to take him seriously. The Stansbury Show. 806.
Welcome back to the program. 9 a.m. this morning, I'll rock the bank with you. Get you that $1,000 you need. That's the first keyword of the day. We'll continue all day. A lot of movement in the football world yesterday, man. Tons of it. Pete Carroll removed from the head coaching position for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he's staying with the team. As far as I've understood, he will be in an advisory role. And I could understand if you're the team wanting to keep Pete Carroll around. Pete had been wildly successful both as a college and NFL head coach. Not many people have. Jimmy Johnson kind of comes to mind. There's been maybe one or two others, but mostly it's like you're really good at one, not so great at the other. Pete has had success at both. We were just using him as an example the other day, is because occasionally players will get like to the end about 3 years playing for Pete, and he's a little too rah-rah, a little too collegey, and they're ready to move on, right? But the team now moved up the stairs. He'll be in an advisory role for the Seattle Seahawks, so that job's open. And that's a damn good job. There's a lot of young talent there. They're passionate about that team in that region. The owner seems to be committed. You've had some previous success. Now, what would make it a tough job, if you ask me, is I don't think you want to replace him. Now, he's not like he's just coming right off his Super Bowl right now. That will make it a little easier, and I can understand that. But replacing greatness is tough. Another place where people are going to have to do that is Alabama. Nick Saban retires yesterday. If you ask most people who watch college football, and a lot of you watch it a lot more than I do, but they'll tell you that Nick Saban is most likely the best college football coach maybe ever. He's retiring, I believe, with 7 national titles. I think he won the SEC 10 times. Eesh. Again, college football fans will tell you that the SEC, maybe not every year, but that's a gauntlet of a division usually, and Nick has handled it pretty well. Now, Nick was also one of those guys people kind of relied on as never trust a coach when they tell you something, because Nick had said plainly, I don't know about Alabama. I'm not going to Alabama. I don't know what you want me to tell you about Alabama. And then next thing you know, here's Nick. Hey, I'm the new head coach of Alabama. Right? And so that's kind of how that goes. So you can't really trust a coach when they're telling you stuff, especially about future jobs, because everybody's going to keep that a little close to the vest. I don't know. I think replacing Pete Carroll in the NFL, I think, is a better job than having to go to Alabama. Replacing Nick Saban, to me, feels like replacing Howard. Like, they tried it all over the country and nobody did it. Nobody. I mean, dude, it just was like, it was a mess everywhere. Because it was just too big. It was just too hot. It was too big of an opening. That's why they put David Lee Roth in there for a lot of they nationally syndicated David to a lot of those markets. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I said then, and I'll say now, that was never a real hire. Ever. I'm reading a book about David Lee Roth right now, as a matter of fact, and I still maintain that him getting that job for Howard, that was never a real hire. They knew whoever we put in here is going to be ground meat by the end of the first week. They're just going to get brutalized. So let's go crazy here. We'll do something way out of left field. And then when he gets all murdered up and we get rid of him, then we can start moving on to some of the things maybe we wanted to do. Let's not crucify the people we think can do this down the road. Let's throw a little chum to the sharks. Let them feast on David Lee Roth, and then when that's over, then we'll start to make our plans. I could be wildly wrong about that. It is just my opinion, but I think I'm right about it. Now, I don't think that's what Alabama's going to do with their head coaching job. I think they're going to try to find a guy. I just worry for that person. Every last thing you do will be under the microscope. Beyond that, Nick has the control and the power in order to be able to run his system the way he wants it to do to get the success he needs. Are they going to let the next guy do that? That will be interesting. That's going to be a tough job. Nick has success because you run it Nick's way. I get what I want. I am Nick Saban and you are not. And the next guy's not going to have that track record. Now, if they're looking at Dabo, maybe a couple of other guys that have done some things, that may, that argument may not hold up. We also saw Pat McAfee